So while Final Fantasy 14 has a good handle on it,
Mhm.
it is still present in the game. And I
Yeah.
think that's going to be the brunt of the conversation tonight is how the min-max and the meta affects games.
Now my question is, does that exist in Final Fantasy 14?
Oh, absolutely it does.
How that?
In the sense that the meta is specific to each class
Okay.
and min-maxing comes from your own personal ability and knowledge of the game. Um
Right.
so while Final Fantasy 14 has a good handle on it,
Mhm.
it is still present in the game. Um because when you go from doing the normal content to the trials and the raids like Anabasos, the last 4 tiers of the raid,
Okay.
and you push into an extreme or a savage, the
Right.
skill gap is massive in an almost scary degree, because you go from just like basically just steamrolling content into something that really hits back and very very hard, and it scares a lot of uh I don't want to say casual players, but it scares a lot of like the mid tier to mid core players from taking that step into harder content, because
Mhm.
there's tiers of difficulty in Final Fantasy 14, right? You got your dungeons, you got your regular trials, and you've got your normal raids. Okay,
Right.
then the next breakpoint is the extreme trials. That should be like a mid tier difficulty thing. You should go in there with like, obviously like the basic knowledge of your class and a good understanding of your rotation, a decent understanding of your rotation and the mechanics
Mhm.
of the game. And you should be able to clear it no problem.
Right.
Then you break into the next tier, which is savage rating. The jump into savage rating should be a little bit more difficult. You should know your class well. You should know your rotation well. You should know your best in slot stats. You
Okay.
should know what food and potions, and you should know at the very least know what food you need to buy for a buff.
Okay.
And you should be, and you need a good understanding of the mechanics of the game.
Right.
A higher tier than you would an extreme trial. Then you move into the ultimates. This is the highest tier difficulty stuff in the game. You should know
Right.
your class to a T. You should know your rotation and then some to a T. You should know exactly when, where, and how to pop every single buff and ability in your kit, including items like potions. The the ultimate tier of difficulty is that should be the upper echelon, and it is the upper echelon. But the problem is that the ultimates are up here, savage rating is right underneath it, and then extremes are right underneath that, and the normal stuff is all the way down here.
Right.
There is no nice progression,
That's
and
true.
that is where this is where Final Fantasy falls into that min maxing problem, right? Is because to get from here, the normal stuff, into the extreme trials, you need to min max your character. But that jump from not needing any of the extra stuff in your kit, like mitigation, the stuff like not needing to like min max your materia, for example. See, because I could just throw determination in my gear if I didn't know what I was doing, right?
Right.
And I'd be okay because it wouldn't matter for anything that's down here, but it would matter for everything that's up here.
Okay.
So a lot of people would just be like, "Oh, do some research, do some research, do some research." That's a lot of research to do. Um, I've only really got 2 classes down packed, and I don't even have them mastered. Uh, I know them well enough to be doing Savage content. Uh, am I confident in my ability to do Ultimate tier stuff? Yes, but my group hasn't reached that yet. But that's beside the point. The topic of the conversation right now is the min-maxing that it takes to get to that point, and it just creates this gap of, and these bubbles in the community where you've got your higher, your upper gamers, and then just everybody else.
And it's something where like you can't just go into a raid, right, or a Savage Extreme Ultimate unless you've seen the fight first,
Correct. You
right?
need to do
Because
all the research because these fights, while they are formulaic,
mm,
and once you get the boss has a rotation same as you. Once you understand their rotation and how to counter their rotation, the fights become easy.
well, isn't the other side of that why can't I just go into a raid, an extreme raid, no knowledge whatsoever, and just do the fight? Like just do it and learn on my way and learn as I go through the fight. I mean, what's wrong with doing that?
Um, Min-maxing.
Right, because you're maximizing your time.
Right. You're holding back
Right,
7 other people.
right,
Now, if you
right.
go in with a consensual group of 7 other people that are like, yeah, we just want to go and do this blind, prog it blind, we'll learn as we go. That's a perfectly acceptable thing. But if you're going into like a public group and
Mm-hmm.
you're going into like a fresh progression group, um, at the bare minimum, they still expect you to know how to play your class, make sure you're decked out in proper materia, make sure you're wearing your biz gear for what you can, reasonably get.
Right.
Um, and watch a video on the fight. That's a fair amount of time. That's like, for someone who knows where to go, that's still like an hour or two of researching, watching, and then actually doing before you even get in the raid.
Right.
For people who
Right.
don't know where to go, it's a scary jump. It's this gap that just pushes them away from harder content. And it's not that they can't do it; it's that they think they can't do it because there's this gap, and they don't know how to cross it. So
Right.
that's an issue with a lot of games when it comes to min maxing, and the meta is just like a lot of games they just have this big gap between the normal content and that I don't want to call it like upper echelon or higher tier or anything like that because it's nothing special
Mm.
when you know what to look for,
Okay. Okay.
but it does leave a lot of people like in lower tiers of content, and they don't
Yeah.
really get to truly enjoy games that way because in every Final Fantasy 14 raid tier, right? Every
Mm.
fourth boss has a second phase.
Okay.
With new music, new mechanics, new boss models. Everything's really fucking cool. Like in uh what was my favorite one? Oh, the Delta Scape when we were doing the Mount Farms when with X Death. When
Okay.
X Death went into Neo X Death,
Oh yeah.
that was the coolest fucking thing. And people don't get to experience that, and it really fucking sucks.
Why? Like because it's just not
Because
the
it's, like I said, it's that gap for people. It's just a
right.
scary gap to cross because they don't know. There's this expectation that you should know,
Mm.
and that's the culture issue behind the meta and min maxing.